preparing for an incredible year and one that is in line with our desire to make this sport more mainstream. So for today's press conference, we have our current top 4 ranked drivers in the series. From left to right, we've got Chelsea DeNofa, Odie Bakchis, Matt Field, and current reigning champion Frederick Osbo. We'll kick off the press conference by asking Greg Emerson from the ID agency to conduct fielding, but also asking questions. We'll have open mics around here. We'll do this for as long as you guys want to go. We're also recording this, and we're going to be putting it up later as a record of today's press conference. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Greg.
So let's just start with Frederick. This is your chance to get a 3rd championship, which makes you one of 3 drivers in the series. Are you focusing on that? Is that something you're going to worry about, or just have a season?
Well, yeah, it's our second. We had our 2nd title last year, and I think we had, as soon as we were done with the celebrations following that was all a thing of the past. We haven't done major things to the car this year. I think this year is going to be all about further working on dialing it in for every single track. What we have done, however, is I've spent a lot of time practicing back in Europe on the ice, that's worked well for me in the past. But every time I get back here in the pro car, I feel like it's such an animal. It doesn't compare to what I've been practicing in. So the focus is definitely on the championship. But then again, we have a lot of respect for the task at hand. You know, I mean, look at these guys, look at the rest of the field. Everyone's improving. So it's going to be one hell of a year.
Thank you. So also looking at Odie and Chelsea, you guys got 3 wins each. You had a chance to make 2021 your year. What do you think you learned last year you can do differently this year?
Yeah, we're both kind of staring at each other. I learned that it would help to beat this guy.
Can you pick up the mic?
Yeah, you know, Chelsea and I have been kind of battling it last year, and we went together. When you battle guys that are in contingent to win the championship, you have to put it together. So it's really, you could only do so much. There's a lot of luck involved, and you just got to stay strong because there's definitely some downs, and in this sport, you just got to keep your head up.
Yeah, for sure. Like battling Odie quite a few times last year too. It's always like, do you go like over the top, over 100% because you know he's going to bring it, or do you just drive 90% and know he's going to run you over or something? So sometimes you go that way, sometimes you go the other way. But no, just overall, like my focus this year is more just on the consistency end of it. In the past, I've always like overdriven the car, driven really hard. Last year, I underdrove it a few times and had some issues with that. So I'm just trying to find that balance all the time of like what keeps me happy as a driver, but also appeases the judges and what needs to happen to win in the sport.
And just thinking with you, do you think this year is going to be different not having Vaughan in the pit with you? Do you think Adam will be a different motivation for you?
Absolutely. I think Adam will be a completely different motivation because there'll be totally different scenarios and situations. Like me teaching him and helping him learn this car and utilize the skills he already has in the vehicle allows me to kind of reiterate it to myself. You know, like, hey, if I'm telling you, hey, you need to be on the throttle here and do that, and then I look at my data and I'm not doing that, I'm like, hey, we need to be doing that, you know, or vice versa. Vaughn was always a really good leader in the aspect of like helping me bring out the best in myself, so I think I've kind of prepared that to my advantage, and I think I'd like to kind of promote that to what he's doing as well, because I think he's got some serious skills and we just got to hone him in the new chassis.
Great. And Matt, obviously a big year for you last year, didn't quite get there in the end. What have you got to do this year, do you think?
I think for me, I didn't change anything. The only thing that I did was work on myself a little bit and try to make the car a little bit more reliable. We had a couple of parts failures that inevitably probably took us out of the championship contention. I think if a couple of things would have went our way, we probably would have had it wrapped up heading into Irwindale. So for me, I hope that I can do the same thing. I hope my car doesn't break, but it is motorsport, and I'm just going to drive the best that I possibly can. I mean, it's a panel of really, really good dudes, so every lap is very important, every battle is very important, every piece of communication that you have with your team is very important, so got to maximize all of it.
Perfect. And then we'll talk about Long Beach, but all of you are going to face a new track this year, Utah. Have you guys had a chance to see that? What do you think about the prospects of a brand new track for this year? Let's start with you, Frederick.
So generally, I like the idea of a new track. I've enjoyed that challenge in the past. We've done well at new tracks in the past, but again, no guarantees to what's going to happen up there. And from what I see, it's a pretty gnarly setup, high speeds. Should be a lot of fun. I've never actually been to Utah, so for me, it's cool to continue this journey we're on, expanding into new markets, seeing new things, and battling everyone at a new field.
Sure. Matt?
From a driver standpoint, I absolutely love new tracks and new venues. We've always done good at them. I think it's great for the team. It keeps all of us on the toes. From Formula Drift standpoint, I hope that there's enough advertising to get people out. There's always the worry of the crowd not showing up, so I hope that we're able to market this well enough to have them show up there. But of course, we're ready. I'm always excited.
Odie?
Yeah, I'm definitely up for the challenge. I think it's fun to throw in a different venue. It's good for the sport to hit a different demographic as well. And I feel like my team's pretty experienced and we come prepared. So when you come to a brand new track and you're prepared, you're willing, and you already have all the basically essentials in your toolbox to throw different settings at the car to adapt quickly. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's tough going last because you guys took all my ideas one at a time.
All the same answer.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, obviously I'm really pumped because our team, I feel like, has a really upper hand on being prepared for different tracks. I'm also really excited to have a track that's faster than 60 miles per hour because I'm always like, we need to go faster, we need to do more things. So I think that's marketable in its own, and that might be like adding on to what Matt was saying about marketing this event and trying to expand it. This is going to be one of the fastest tracks of our season, and we should be promoting that. We're excited about that.
So let's just stay with you, Chelsea, for this essentially last question. So now we're at Long Beach. It's obviously very technical. Mistakes are pretty unforgiving here. But also you've got 20,000 people that are watching you. So what have you done to prepare for this first round, and what do you look forward to at Long Beach?
So this is one of my favorite tracks. I've done well here in the past. It's one of the more complex tracks because it's kind of blind going into every turn. And obviously, like you said, there's no consequence, or there's a lot of consequences. You can't make any mistakes. For me, mentally, it's just go out there and do what I've been doing for the last 15 years to get to the point where I'm at, and focusing on the fact that we're able to do it, we know how to do it, and you just need to keep doing it throughout the entire event. So no doubts, ready to go and take it all the way.
Odie?
I consider this kind of like my backyard track. I don't live too far from here, so there's mixed feelings about backyard tracks. You sometimes get relaxed going into it because you're not prepared and traveling on the road for a whole week to get there. So I'm just trying to find that balance of getting in the groove, and it's close, it's cozy, but at the same time, this track's a monster. So I just felt that on my first lap. Actually, there's some, like you said, big consequences for being too cozy. So this is definitely a track that I got to tippy toe into it. I got to remind myself, even though it's close to home and it feels like I should be killing it here. I've won 2 times in a row here, so a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I know I could do it.
Matt?
Yeah, Long Beach is no joke. And it's always funny that it's right at the beginning of the year. It's like you better break in the car now. Put a scrape on the bumper before it gets you. One of my favorites, for sure. I like the fact that there are consequences. I think it separates the boys from the men. And then I also think that it separates the better teams from the weaker ones. Because if you can't get the driver comfortable, it doesn't matter. You might as well leave it in the trailer. So it really showcases the ones that the drivers are able to work well with the teams, develop, take that next step. The driver has to trust the car, the team has to trust the car, and if it all works out, it works out really well, or you wind up in the wall. Yeah.
Frederick?
Yeah, I think the boys said it all, but one thing that we were discussing, the 4 of us walking in here, is how different this track is from a lot of the other tracks. A lot of the places we go, it's very much a grip race, trying to get as much grip as possible to the ground and just trying to outgun the other guy. Whereas here, it's more of a balancing act. If you add too much grip to the car, now you have a car that's really hard to drive, especially on the outer line. So we're actually running a freer car here, a looser car, and it's trying to push that lever and then dial it back a little bit. And Odie and I were in the finals last year. I think it was a close call, but to my understanding, what ultimately sealed the deal and had Odie win was that I was off the outer zone. So one tiny little mistake will either cost you the win, or you're halfway through the concrete wall. So you got to be careful here.
So just finally, you're sat here with what are essentially the 4 leading contenders for this year, based on last year's results. To start with you, Frederick, who's the guy here that either you dread the most or you look forward to racing the most? Like, which way does it go?
It's like asking which one of your kids do you like the most.
I hope you don't like us that much.
It's funny. We sit here now, and we're all friends, right? And we have a lot of respect for each other. I think all of us. But once we're in competition, obviously everything heats up, and all of these guys are fantastic drivers. And not only that, one thing that I was thinking about this offseason is how this crew of 4 guys are probably the most nerdy guys of the field, in the sense that we live, breathe, sleep drifting. I'm sure you guys are working on every little detail with the teams. You're dictating what you want out of the car. You have your own dialogue with the team. We really, not only are we okay drivers, but we really try and become one with the team. And I think that's why we were all fighting for the title last year, because we really freaking care about it.
But who's going to put you in the wall first?
Well, Vaughn's not here.
I was waiting for that.
I don't think any of them would do it on purpose. We've all been into each other before, tapped each other. We've all had controversies. It could be any of us, or it could be me putting those guys in the wall. So let's pray for a good fight, close, tight drifting, and hope it goes down that way.
Matt, Eddie?
Whenever I pull Chelsea, my first thought is there will be blood.
You or the whole team? Both of our teams.
Both of our teams pump their chest out,
right.
stand 2 inches taller, put all the grip in the car, pat us on the ass 3 extra times before we get in the car, and they bust out the spare parts. So for that reason and that reason alone, I'll go with Chelsea, because there will be blood.
For sure. Odie?
I do think I have a different level of amount of time that we spend outside of racing, between all of us here. Frederick obviously lives all the way in Europe. Matt, we go back of sharing data many years, so it's a very different dynamic. But ultimately, when the visor goes down, it's all the same. Then it's just win. There's slightly different strategies for every single driver because they all drive very differently. Bottom line, visor's down. Everyone gets treated the same. It's a competitor, and you just want to be the better driver at the end of the competition.
Sure. Chelsea?
Yeah, so for me, it's more of like a comfort thing, like when I drive with people a lot. With the way we have practice set up and all that, sometimes I'll line up with the same person 3 times at the event. And then the next event, I'll line up with nobody, the same person every time, or one person at a time. So I start to get a point where I'm like, I kind of know how they drive, I know their car, and then I can drive harder and attack more, throughout the day. Whenever we're battling Matt, it's like, okay, who's leading first? The leader needs this side spares ready. The chase guy needs this side spares ready. And we know we're just going to drive 110%. And maybe the goal is that we both actually finish the runs. So, like I said, Vaughn's not here, so we don't have to worry so much about getting ran over at random times. So, basically that's my thought, is like everybody's kind of the same, but I get more comfortable as I go and drive with these people more.
Understood.
What's actually something to note, too, is all of our cars are so different, and all of our driving styles are so different, but all of us are all within like a fraction of speed, a fraction of angle, a fraction of everything, when we're all achieving it in like way different ways.
Yep.
So like that, it goes again with the following somebody with their car, like learning what their car does, learning their style repetitively over and over again, and then kind of almost projecting what they're going to be doing next.
Perfect, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions before we close it down? Bueller?
What do you want to see for the future?
Was that directed at somebody?
Yeah, that's definitely a you question.
That's a me question? Why is
I
that
just
a me
want to go
question?
fast. That's all he's going to say.
Yeah, I just want to go fast. No, I think the future of this sport is in all of our hands. I think that it's our job to promote it and get our own security, as well as Formula D, and working with them to utilize this as a platform to grow it. I hope the future, at least the next 5 or 10 years when I'm involved with this, keeps growing at a rate and percentage that it is now at this point. And just getting it to new eyes and bringing in new people is like, I think, how we grow this. You know, I think with social media and YouTube and the growth of everything, if we can keep bringing in new people, because the sport is so awesome and so much fun. I've never brought anybody to an event where they weren't so stoked about it that they want to build a car or at least ride in some cars more. So just getting more people involved in it, I see is really the future of this.
I'd love to see more girls. And I feel like it's kind of a movement.
Ladies' man over here.
Well, yeah, I mean, my wife has become a drifter. I mean, your wife can drive. There are girls on the horizon, basically, that are coming into sport. Look at Amanda. And more diversity would be cool, both in terms of people of all kinds of backgrounds as well as different cars. I think the EV stuff is coming back. We got to embrace that. So yeah, more diversity. We're already quite diverse, like Chelsea was saying, with all these different cars and different styles of building cars. Let's just add to that and be a leader in that field. That'd be cool.
For me, I'd like to see some expansion into overseas markets. I think that when Formula Drift did the World Championship many years ago, we just weren't quite ready for that. I'd like to think in the future that this series could be a World Championship. I would like to put my whole rig in a container and put it on a boat and on a plane and whatever it takes to get it around the country. I think that would be an awesome step for us as drivers and team owners. And there's a big future out there, and there's a lot of money outside of the U.S., so I would love to capitalize on it.
I guess, I don't know, I would have to comment on this too, but everyone kind of hit it. I do want to see drifting becoming more mainstream, and I'd like to see it become even more mainstream because I feel like the technology we're using is something that's really, really neat, and our cars are dabbling in so many different disciplines of motorsport, and we take so much from so many different types of racing. I see so much potential of it going mainstream, and thanks to guys like Adam that are followed by so many different people, it's allowing drifting to become mainstream. So as long as we keep going in that trajectory, I think that's where I want to see it go.
All right, if there's nothing further, we'll go ahead and bring the proceedings to a close. Thank you guys for attending, and thank you, drivers, for the kind of professionals that you guys are in helping promote this sport. We really appreciate that. We'll stick around for one-on-ones if you'd like, and then the next session is at 1 o'clock. Thank you for joining.